French, for example, I'm giving
French
you...
is a very patriarchal, misogynist, sexist language.
No problem.
As is Spanish.
We can talk about patriarch in a second, but what I was going to say was that patriarch, French language, yeah, they actually have commissions in place to try and basically keep the language pure in a sense, yeah?
They do indeed.
Yeah. So in English language, what happens is, the language is malleable in the sense that we can actually introduce new words into the language.
Look at the number of words in French compared to the number of words in English.
So as far as I know, according to majority of dictionaries, now the word guys can include males and females. And if you're arguing from, let's say, a woman's perspective, or you want the word to be more inclusive or whatever, I would say that's a good thing. Why not own the word guys in a sense?
No, because
you don't want
means something very specific.
All right, well, let's make it more general then.
I'm saying we should come up with new words. And
No
I'm
problem.
Saying that
You have the right to come up with new words.
Yeah, but are the men going to use those words?
Yeah, if you use them.
Are you willing to stand here?
Yeah, no problem.
Well, I would say you all, or y'all, or ladies and gentlemen, or something that's more inclusive. But
so let's get to the heart of it, right? Let's talk about patriarchy.
Okay.
Yeah, let's talk about patriarchy, okay? So for me, I think that there are layers of oppression, in my opinion. Yeah, I'm not denying. I've never denied that men oppress women. And that's the idea of patriarchy, where you have men oppressing women or exploiting them in any system, in any given system, okay? But what I find is a problematic element of the feminist argument. I'm not saying that you're a feminist, but I'm just saying that those are the...
like I don't see you as speaking for all
but
Muslims.
What I was going to say, yeah, of course. But what I was going to say was, what I find problematic about it is that what's not identified is that there are different layers of oppression. For instance, yeah? Yes, it's true that men oppress women. But it's also true that women oppress women. So for instance here...
That's part of patriarchy.
Yeah, and men oppress men. So for instance, yeah?
No, but we're talking about a systemic problem.
Yeah.
Like racism.
So no,
Black people aren't racist. There's a systemic problem.
I would argue, there's a systemic problem in the system of capitalism that we have. Yeah, I would call it a problem whereby...
Capitalism and patriarchy work together.
Yeah, and I believe that we have to identify those things, right? But so if we're saying that, for instance, you're a woman, yeah? As far as I can identify. In Africa, you have men. In my opinion, me and you, yeah, are working in a system, contributing to it and not objecting to it in some cases. Maybe this is an example of us working in that direction, but usually not objecting to a system of economics, which means that people in the West, men and women, exploit people in the African subcontinent, for example. Okay, if that's the case, then why is there a special word for when men oppress women, and there is no special word for when women oppress women that are also, or men even, in the African subcontinent? Because that's, I would argue, a more exacerbated reality. It's more problematic. Now it's imperialism, but what I believe feminism is what it's like. It's kind of like Marxism in a sense, because it defines very clearly the bourgeoisie and the proletariat. The bourgeoisie are the men. The proletariat are the women.
Marxists are very bad feminists.
No, I understand. You have Marxist feminists, but what I'm saying is that the structure, the framework is very, very similar. So the bourgeoisie become men, and the proletariat are the women. Yeah, and it's almost as if there is a systemic exploitation of women by men throughout the histories or throughout the times. What I'm saying to you is that it's more complicated than that. Yeah, when we look at the household, when you look at the bulk of human civilization, 7 billion individuals on the planet Earth, and we look at historical civilizations and populations that existed within them, what you do have, whatever way you want to look at it, is hegemony. So you have at the top a system or a people or an empire or a country or countries or a hemisphere that is usually a beneficiary of some kind of economic system. In this case, it's capitalism. Yeah. So here,
I don't understand why you're making a connection between capitalism and...
No. This is what I'm trying to say. Yeah?
Women. I
no,
don't
what I'm
see
saying.
Any connection
No, what I'm trying to say is this.
Probably the opposite.
No. What I'm trying to say is, just as I agree that there are some men that oppress some women, yeah. I'm saying to you
it's not just an individual.
No. But what I'm saying to you is that women oppress some men and also some women. So here, what you have to see is that basically oppression is rampant and everywhere. So here, what you're basically saying to me is that why don't we have this and that or patriarchy, whatever. I'm saying that, listen, humans oppress...
Let me speak, so you don't really
know
what
of course.
I'm saying.
No, but that's what you said before. I'm just, yeah. So what I'm saying to you, what I'm saying to you is
you're being oppressed, I think.
No, so sorry. What I'm saying to you is that people are oppressing people, yeah. Now there are some very women-specific...
Just like men are raped too, I know.
No, I'm not saying men are raped too.
No,
that's a straw man. That's not what I'm saying.
I'm saying that's the argument that you're giving. It's like,
No,
okay, sure. So at me as an American, I'm U.S. American, right?
Yeah.
So that means that I'm oppressing women in Africa because I buy the products that they've made.
You're acquiescent. You're acquiescent to an oppression that's going on.
How do you know what I'm acquiescent? How do you know what I'm supporting and what I'm not supporting?
Because in this course, you've highlighted one oppression without mentioning the other one.
We can talk about all of them if
let's
you like,
do it.
But mine specifically right now is the way that you as a man and how most men speak in conversations like this.
Okay.
Like how mostly we refer to women as girls instead of women, and we refer to men as guys or men. And so I think that then when we step into... What's the problem? What do you mean?
What's the issue then?
So if we're discussing males and females, and you consider yourself a man and you consider me a girl, you don't find a problem with that?
I don't consider you a girl. I consider you a woman.
In colloquial terms, the way that most people are speaking,
do they pretty young to me.
Do they say women, or do they call a woman like me about my age a girl?
Well, in your country, I don't know. Like in America.
Here, I was just speaking with some men, and they were talking about,
if I date a girl, I think in this country.
Well, if I date a girl,
okay, maybe like that.
Girl, like that, right? But
so what's the issue? What's the problem?
Do you think that there's a problem that if I step into this space right here and the men here see themselves as men and they see me as a girl, like a child,
maybe that's infantilizing in that. If you feel okay,
unfair,
maybe you're right. So I reckon that maybe sometimes women can also say, I'll date a boy.
When do we say that?
I don't know, man. I've heard that.
Rarely. I'm talking about in regular.
But I haven't done.
That's not right, is it? Because what we're doing is we are attacking her now.
No, I'm not trying to attack her.
We are, because what we're doing is we're saying there's this counter argument. She's actually telling you something which she believes to be true.
Right.
We need to embrace that and not bring up some
other
argument.
No, you're right. You're right. I'll accept that. But I haven't done any sociological, longitudinal or otherwise broad-scale study to see who is saying what.
If I called you a boy, you wouldn't like it, would you?
No.
And nor would I.
No.
And nor would Preston, and no one would like that.
Okay, fine.
Right, so
all right, maybe there's some issues there. Maybe you're right.
Of course. And it's the same way that...
Not maybe,
so like,
definitely.
I'm a woman.
Yeah, all right.
Even me as a woman,
Yeah.
that definition is based upon my relationship to my husband. So I only... Either I'm the property of my father, I take his name, and he tells me when I'm released to my husband.
In Islam, you're not allowed to have your your husband's surname.
Not allowed to?
No, you're not allowed to. Because Islam came to protect 5 fundamental rights. They're called ad-darurat al-khams. One of them, so it's like life, lineage, wealth, dignity of the person, etc. And religion. One of them is lineage. So when a woman gets married to a husband, she has to maintain her name. She can't change her name to her husband's name.
And would you agree that... Well, why is it that men are allowed to have multiple wives, but women aren't allowed to have multiple husbands?
Okay, so in Islam, we believe there's some principles that you need to know.
Even besides Islam.
Oh, generally.
Let's speak generally.
Because
okay.
It's desirable.
Why are men allowed to fuck whoever they want?
Because it's desirable and men have power. That's the answer you don't want to hear, but that's the truth.
No, hold on. Let me tell you. Even if we argue in that sense, right?
Well, we don't have to argue, it's a fact.
No problem. No, but that's once again, just because it is, it doesn't mean it's wrong.
No, I don't think it is right. What I'm saying is it's a fact that men do marry lots of women in, say, Utah, for example, right?
Okay, so let me answer you, right? The truth is this.
Wait, when you start something with the truth is this, it leads everyone to believe that that's the truth, and I don't think
I think you're more critical than that. I think you employ more of a criticality than that.
He's used to proselytizing. That's his problem here.
Right. And he's a tall, handsome man who's very charismatic, so he can start a sentence with, the truth of the matter is, but actually it's not
doesn't
the truth.
Work for me,
Mohammed.
Doesn't work
Your opinion is that what?
My opinion is, I believe. I'm convinced.
I actually know, in fairness, you have said, I think, I feel.
Right. Cool. All right, so Islamically, right?
Islamically.
The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, he said, إِنَّمَا النساء شقائق الرجال, that men are equal to women. However, there are some exceptions from an Islamic perspective to that. So we don't believe, we were talking about absolute freedom of speech. We said that we've debunked that kind of, you could say, yeah?
We don't have absolute equality.
Yes, we don't believe in absolute equality. We believe in a general equality and not in an absolute one. So we would say that in order to believe in an absolute equality between men and women, you would have to assume that the natural predispositions of either men or women, whether it be biological, psychological, or otherwise, should be disregarded in terms of, for example, application of laws. Simone de Beauvoir, and I always mention her because she's quite mainstream, when she talked about feminism, she had a second chapter, it's called biology, yeah?
I'm a good feminist.
Well, that's what you would say. I don't believe she was.
Why?
Well, I'll tell you why. in her second chapter on biology, she very candidly and clearly, honestly, unequivocally, unambiguously, right, mentions the differences between men and women in terms of biology. She even says men are stronger than women, that women are more emotional than men. All those things that are maybe in the common vernacular quite
and maybe
politically
the
incorrect.
Of times, but that's not true.
But even if that was true, I think the application of inequality doesn't fit that.
No, what I was going to say is that this is the argument. This is the thrust of the second feminist, her argument. She is saying that despite the differences, we should have equality.
Not equality, but equality and equity is very
excellent,
different.
excellent, perfect. So, if you agree with me that an absolute equality is not something which is either desirable or feasible, then we can move on. But if you're saying that actually, despite the physiological, psychological, biological differences, despite that, we should have absolute equality.
Could you make clear the testimony arguments?
No, but one thing at a time, because polygamy came into it, so I'm trying to build an argument.
The testimony is an important one.
No, I don't want equality. I don't want to be a man.
So what is equity then?
All.
Equity here, usually in the dictionary, is referred to as some kind of fairness, yeah?
Right.
But once again, it's very arbitrary and subjective. So
sure, but like I just spent 6 weeks in Morocco, and what I saw there was not equity in any way
but that's
whatsoever.
your opinion, right? I'm not saying it is equity as well. I've been to Morocco many times, like 3 or 4 times.
Sure, I had a great time. The people there are beautiful. I learned a lot about Islam that I did not know before. Okay. I actually agree with a lot of what's going on. But when I pass by the cafes, I see men sitting around sipping on their tea, watching football all day, and where are the women?
Sounds like here.
Where are they? They're nowhere to be found. But I mean,
not Islam. It's actually the culture of the.
Are you a broken brother? Trying to come and defend yourself.
I've only been to
They're
2
wrong for what they're doing.
Muslim countries.
No, for sure.
They are wrong for what they're doing.
That's once again.
Always complain about.
When we were talking about Richard, I told him, listen, don't make a false equivalency of saying, okay, what Islam preaches is exactly what is in the.
But we knew where he was coming from. His heart was in the right place. In what he was saying.
For sure. So what I'm saying is this. So we know, Islamically, there's certain rights, responsibilities that men have that women don't have. For example, divorce is easier for a man. No matter how any apologist wants to spin it, divorce is easier for a man than it is for a woman. I'll tell you why. Divorce is easier for a man. A man can marry up to 4 women, and if he can't do justice, he can marry only 1.
But why? Like, what
I'll tell
the
you.
reason for that?
These are some of the differences. In some cases, the inheritance are different. Not always. Sometimes there is equality. Sometimes there isn't.
Inheritance is a big problem, I think.
Well, not really, because people have a misunderstanding on inheritance, by the way, and I can talk to you about that.
Over 35 cases, it gives to the woman more than a man.
Yeah, in some
Like
cases.
30, yeah.
I don't know about 30, but what we do know that, for example, with inheritance, the highest group of people that get inheritance is a group of women, rather than men. So if you have 3 girls.
You're talking about who gets the inheritance, and then you're talking about how much inheritance.
How much? 3 girls get more than 3 boys, basically. Yeah. But then because in the Quran it says, وَإِن كُنَّ نِسَاءً, it says in the Quran, in chapter 4 of the Quran it says, وَإِن كُنَّ نِسَاءً فَوْقَ اثْنَتَيْنِ فَلَهُمَا ثُلُثَا مَا تَرَكَ. If there's more than 3 girls, or 2 or more girls, actually.
Wait, girls or women?
It's girls or women.
Okay.
So it includes both, because here فَإِن كُنَّ نِسَاء, the actual word in Arabic is females, women, yeah? وَإِن كُنَّ نِسَاءً فَوْقَ اثْنَتَيْنِ فَلَهُمَا ثُلُثَا مَا تَرَكَ. If there's more than 2 or 3, then they get 2/3 of what is left behind. So the highest, in terms of inheritance, the highest group is 3 women.
Because there are more girls or women than there are men?
No. If there are 3 girls and 1 boy, 3 girls, they get 2/3. Yes. Right. Which, if there are men in the equation, if there are men like father.
The thing is,
sorry, 3 women.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry. I apologize. 3 women.
Yes.
I apologize.
You say woman, you say
No,
men.
daughter, granddaughter, etc. Yeah.
Any of the females.
Yeah, females. 3 females get more than the men. If there are a mother and a daughter, and you die and you leave by your mother and your daughter, they get both 1/6 each. So it's equality there. In one case, there's a very clear disparity between where a boy gets more than a girl, and we can talk about that, yeah? But the point is that that's been misconstrued as well. So there's 3 things here we've talked about.
I mean, the reason behind, I think that
so
inheritance
Christina's asking for the reason.
Yeah.
So the reason why men feel like they have property and that no one else can touch it. So like when we were nomads before, when we were hunter-gatherers, before we decided, oh, we're going to stay here and we're going to plant and whatever and cultivate, right? Then we decided, men decided, this is my land, this is my house, this is my donkey, and this is my wife, and don't you touch none of my shit, because when she has my children, I'm going to know that they're mine because you haven't touched her and she hasn't gone anywhere else. And now I know that I'm passing on all the things that are mine to my children. Okay. It's a completely capitalist, patriarchal way to think, and I don't think that it has to be that way.
Yeah,
if we weren't worried about property rights,
no problem.
We wouldn't be worried about owning women.
One thing at a time, one thing at a time. By the way, Islam says nothing about owning women, yeah? Like in terms of your wife is not a person you own.
I'm speaking generally on this planet. I'm talking about human beings.
Fine. But I'm just going back, yeah? So apart from those kind of three main things.
I'm speaking as a human being. Are you speaking as a human or a Muslim?
I'm speaking as a Muslim, because you asked me a question about Islam. Then I'll come back to you about the human point, yeah? So in regards to Islam, these are the three main points I can think of now. Maybe there's a fourth one. Maybe leadership could be a fourth one, yeah? But even that is a controversial topic, so we're not going to go into it. These are the three main points that basically there is a difference between men and women, yeah? Now, apart from that, I can't really think of that many
Do you
points.
agree that there are other genders besides men and women?
No.
Why is that?
Biologically,
no, I'm not talking about sex. I'm talking about gender.
Well, I mean,
I think Islam predates transgender.
But this is the problem.
No, it doesn't. There were people, for example, there was transgender people at the time of the Prophet. People don't know. Yeah, there were people that.
How were those people treated?
Well, the Prophet was very nice to them and kind to them. In fact, there was a discussion.
We had this conversation about, not with you, but
there's a discussion. There was a discussion with the scholars. They say, okay, should a person, because they were actually, a lot of them actually had been castrated, and so they identified a lot of them with females, femininity.
So they were hermaphrodites then?
No, they were castrated.
Oh, they were men who were, okay.
Yeah, so, but then I started to identify more with femininity, if you like, yeah? Socially constructed, whatever. Females. So a lot of scholars decided, like, there's a difference of opinion. Does a woman have to wear her headscarf in front of that person or not? There's actually discussion. So, because is she, does she have to wear a headscarf? There's discussion, yeah?
Why does she have to wear a headscarf?
That's another main point. Sorry, I forgot to mention that. That is definitely...
I like to jump around a lot.
Yeah. So these are the main differences. But dress code is definitely different. The reason why, in a nutshell, is because men and women are different. If you want a one-word answer,
women have to wear headscarves because
they're different to men. So here, the point is this. Remember, look, we said that if you go back to Simone de Beauvoir, listen to me, yeah? Simone de Beauvoir, her point is that biology, psychology, and physiology, despite differences, we should have absolute equality. I'm saying no, or Islam says we should have general equality, but where there's differences, those should be accounted for. That's the argument.
The problem here is going to be how he accounts for them.
Yeah. So how we account for them, I'm going to be honest. I'm going to be totally honest with you, right? There's two things in Islam. There's something called the illah and something called the hikmah. Illah, as we talked about before, is the reason behind, the actual reason behind it. I cannot tell you. I'm not even allowed to tell you what the illah is, because unless the Quran mentions it very clearly or the hadith, I can't say the reason is this. I can only guess what the hikmah is, the wisdom. Do you understand?
You have to accept it.
So for us, the reason why we do all those things, in a nutshell, Christina, now listen, is because we genuinely believe that the Quran and the Sunnah is rationalizably, something which has come from God. It's a revelation, and God knows all the variables. He knows the extraneous variables. He knows the societal variables. He knows the personal. No, we don't believe he's a man in that sense.
You say he.
Yeah, because in the vernacular, if we say she, it's specific. We're supposed to say he.
All languages are sexist and misogynist.
Well, look, once again, it depends on how you define sexism and misogyny.
Well, if you're saying that God is not a man.
Yes, he's not a man. Yes, he's not a man.
And he has no gender.
Yeah, we don't believe Jesus is God.
But you say he. Yeah. You say he too.
Let me tell you something. In Arabic language, the word huwa, which is a pronoun, the first of 12 pronouns, huwa means he. It's used to refer to singular men. It's used to refer, in the plural, hum is referred to men and women. So it's a little bit confusing. It's not the same as our English language.
I know, you've got to separate
whereas
two people,
in Arabic, if you say she, it can refer to, for example, inanimate objects in plural form are females. If I'm talking about the trees, I'll use a plural form, a female form for that, a feminine form for that. So it's not as stringent, or it's different in Arabic. I'm using English language.
But why is it that so in Arabic, how do you refer to Allah?
We refer to Allah.
Which pronoun?
Okay, so Allah refers to himself as we in the plural, magisterial plural. It's referred to in the third person as he. But as we said before, that's the default.
Why is he the default?
Why is he the default? That's the language.
Right, like most languages.
Like most language, but
if there's a group of all women here and then you walk over